Hey everyone, Couch Investor back to our video for today. So let's talk about Intel. A couple of comments from Pat about the 18A and the hallelujah moment there. How are they getting back to that leadership position? Remember, 5 nodes for years. Now, Intel, the stock has been performing quite well this year and actually in the last couple of months as well. Year to date, the stock is up 69%. In the last 3 months, it's up close to 35%. We're now at $43.81 with a market cap of $184.7 billion. Now, if you look at the last 5 years, when you look at valuation, price to earnings, EV to EBITDA, price to sales, price to free cash flow, actually disregard price to free cash flow because currently that's not really happening. Now, if we look at the top 3 here, you can see that we are much higher than the mean. That's because we had that period when, well, suddenly there was no free cash flow, there was no profitability either, EPS was a loss, but we are getting better by the quarter. If you look at year to date, we are below the previous mean. As you can see, every time they reported earnings, we see a huge drop here in the forward PE every time. But since the stock has performed quite well since the last earnings report, we are now a bit higher. After the earnings report, we were at a forward PE of 20.8 times. We're now at 25.5 times. But again, as this company gets back on track, you will see the valuation drop further unless the stock continues to go up and up and up faster than the business. Because remember, despite the positive reaction from this stock, currently the client computing group, it's still down 3% year over year. Data center down 10% year over year. Network and edge down 32% year over year. Mobilize up 18%. And then of course, in my opinion, what's going to become a very important, if not the most important part of this business in the future is the IFS, Intel Foundry Services. That's up close to 300% year over year. Now you're going to say, okay, so why is the stock up? Well, because in those segments, the data center and especially in the client computing group, we have seen some stabilizing signs. We have seen signs of bottoming, whether it's quarter over quarter results or just indications from that market. And of course, the markets are always forward looking. And so the stock is already baking in some of that success. More on that in just a bit. If you enjoy this type of videos, leave it a thumbs up, subscribe if you have not. We really appreciate that. Actually, I appreciate all the support you've been giving me in the last couple of weeks. So thank you very much. If you want to support me even further, do check out the link down in the description and in the pinned comment to get the top 10 best stock to buy now. Or go to full.com/couchinvestor. Thank you very much. Then if we look at the outlook for Q4, it is also better quarter over quarter. So revenue between $14.6 and $15.6 billion. Gross margin on a GAAP basis, 43.3 or 46.5% non-GAAP. And then EPS, 23 cents GAAP, 44 cents non-GAAP. So again, an improvement quarter over quarter. Now, with regards to the business highlights, they obviously made some announcements here with regards to the 5 nodes in 4 years. So Intel 7 and Intel 4 in high volume manufacturing, Intel 3 on track for manufacturing readiness by year end. So we should see some major announcements pretty soon. Then Intel 20A on track, expect to achieve manufacturing readiness in the first half of 2024. Then the big one here, Intel 18A on track, expect to achieve manufacturing readiness in the second half of 2024, critical milestone achieved with 0.9 release of PDK, which stands for Process Design Kit. And now with regards to 18A and the hallelujah moment, so there was an interview from Pat Gelsinger, an interview with Stratechery. So he says here, so he was asked something like, are you betting the entire company on the 18A? He answered, I don't know that I'd go all that way, but this is the biggest bet we have ever made as a company because it also puts incredible stress on the financials of the company. He explained that Intel is racing through capital as it chased its ambitious roadmap. Now, why 18A? Well, they say here it's all about backside power or what Intel calls power via. So a bit more information here. When you look at a metal stack up and a modern process, leading edge technology might have 15 to 20 metal layers, metal 1, metal 2, and then the transistors down here. So it's just an incredible skyscraper design. Well, the top level of metals is almost entirely used for power delivery. So now you have to take the signals and weave them up through this lattice. And then you want big fat metals. And why do you want them fat? So you get good resistors and capacitors, that's RC characteristics. You don't get inductance. You're able to have low IR drop right across these big dies, which I'll try and find a picture here to put on the screen. And then apparently, according to Pat, so the entire industry has suddenly woken up to the benefits of backside power and is racing to implement it in their future silicon, including the 800-pound gorilla of chip foundries that is TSMC. The thing is, as Gelsinger would have it, at least Intel has the jump on everyone else, and by several years. It says here, we are ahead by years over the industry for backside power or power via. Everybody's racing to get their version up and running, and we're already well underway and in our second and third generation of innovation here. He then talks a little bit about AMD and about ARM as well. So he says here, I want to be the best partner for ARM going forward. The majority of logic foundry wafers are ARM based today. Again, the foundry business for Intel, if it works out, is going to be huge for its stock. It's going to be huge for shareholders, but good for the whole industry as a whole. Now again, it remains to be seen if they can deliver, because right now we're still a year or so away from 18A being announced to the world. Hopefully by then we will also know who that big fish customer is going to be. And I bet you that if this is actually true, lots of other customers are lining up as well. Then we had an upgrade by Mizuho Securities. So the analyst has a buy rating, upped his rating from neutral to buy and bumped the price target to $50 from $37, noting that the company is likely lining up significant new server products and a foundry customer in the next 6 months. We then had some positive comments from Citi on AMD and Intel when it comes to the notebook shipments. So we would note that a similar dynamic occurred in July, and 3Q 2023 notebook shipments ended up coming in above expectations. This comes from the fears of sluggish demand. As such, the analyst is keeping his 2024 earnings per share estimate on AMD and Intel of $3.20 and $1.79 respectively. Consensus estimates for 2024 for the pair are $3.10 and $1.10 respectively. And last announcement here is the fact that, Intel could be leading the way to get billions for secure defense chip facilities. They say here the Biden administration has yet to set the exact amount of the funding that will be available. Several people familiar with the situation said the facilities could cost $3 to $4 billion, and the money would come from the $39 billion of manufacturing grants authorized under the CHIPS Act, which is worth $53 billion. And then last thing here, obviously, we'll have a look at the graph. Now, this is on the daily just to show you the incredible rally that we've had for Intel stock in the last couple of days, but that also means that we are now overbought on the daily. If we look at the weekly chart, it becomes even clearer. You can see here the last couple of weeks have been green weeks for Intel, with the last week being a big green candle. And now we're really very, very close to be overbought on the weekly as well. Now, if we zoom out a bit, we can see that this area right here, $45 or so, has been previously a support line back in May 2019, March 2020, and October 2020 as well. So maybe right now that support could turn into a resistance, remains to be seen, but currently the momentum is definitely with Intel stock. Although we are getting into an area where it being overbought, maybe some people might be taking some profits. It's also a case of macro turning a bit more bullish, rate cuts earlier than expected that might push stocks like Intel. Of course, do share your thoughts down in the comments below. To be honest, finally, me as an Intel shareholder, seeing AMD go up, seeing Nvidia go up, finally I'm getting a bit more comfortable here, seeing that, my thesis is working out quite well. Of course, do share your thoughts down in the comments below. If you enjoy this type of videos, leave it a thumbs up, subscribe if you have not, and I'll see you all in the next one. Bye bye.